Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Matola. Welcome to the Board of Finance Audit Subcommittee meeting. Today's Tuesday, June 6th, 2023. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I see I'm here, John Matola, Lori Charlton's here, Mary Leclerc's here on the WebEx, and we'll go to item number 2 to hear, consider, and approve minutes of March 2nd, 2023. We got these minutes in our packet. I don't know if there's any questions. Anybody? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. All right. Item number 3 is to discuss the upcoming fiscal year 23 audit with PKF O'Connor Davies. We have Joe Centofanti on the WebEx. Joe, can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay, Joe. We received in our packet a letter from PFK O'Connor Davis dated May 30th, 2023, which is the engagement letter for this 2023 audit. And so, Joe, can you just take a few minutes to take us through this and let us know if there's anything different from last year's letter? There are different standards that you need to comply with for this upcoming audit, things of that nature, and then I'll open it up for questions.
Okay, to take you through the engagement letter?
Yes, yes. You don't have to go through it page by page. I guess my first question is it pretty much the same? It seemed to me when I looked it over, it was pretty much the same type of letter from last year. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, there's no real change in scope, so things out.
Hey, Joe, we had trouble hearing you that time. Can you start over again?
No change in the scope or anything, so it's basically the same exact letter as far as what we say we're going to do, what everyone's responsibilities are, is the same as last year.
Okay. And can you just, I know we talked about this at, I don't know if it was our last meeting or maybe 2 meetings ago. Can you give us an idea of the timeline? When can we expect to have at least a preliminary draft? Because I think that's happened in the past. We get a draft in maybe November, December time period and go over it with you. So just take us through that.
In general, we start the audit. Once we have the engagement letter, then we start requesting some data, which then should be later this month. So our preliminary phase of the audit pretty much runs from when we start, we'll consider until we get trial balances. But during the preliminary phase, we're just trying to do a lot of our transaction work, trying to get a handle on single audit work, and that type of thing. Then once we get trial balances, that begins our field work. Once we build the report and the document that you see at the end, we build that, then we design our audit plan based upon what the numbers are. So what's different from last year? What do we need to audit? That type of thing. So that's the field work part, as we call it, is kind of actually auditing the financial statements. So the drivers are on timing is when we get trial balances, it takes us about, in the middle of that season, 2 weeks to build the financials and then start field work. The other drivers of the timing then is going to be, if we look at last year, if you're talking about that, there's a couple things that impact timing, and it's the same for every town. So last year it was leases. This year it's going to be GASB 96, software subscriptions. So we're looking to get that information and that schedule out to all our clients in the summer. We actually are putting on a webinar mid-July about what that is. It's basically leases for software. So it is kind of another information gathering thing. It's something that conceptually you could start gathering the information now, and then the second part is evaluating what applies. And this is town and the education side. It may be much more involved because of the amount of different softwares they use. So it's going to be critical that they get on top of this and start pulling that information together, because I got to evaluate for completeness, all those type of things. So that last year that process didn't happen until later. So the goal, if we're going to be on schedule, is to get that earlier. And the other thing, and last year you had new actuaries, but again, I need all the actuary reports by November 1, or else that's going to put the December 31 in jeopardy. And so it's critical that they get the data they need and that they do their calculations, and I have all the pension and OPEB reports by November 1st.
Did you say the goal was to get everything done by, was it December 1st or December 31st?
I mean, this is to have a December 31 issuance. So ideally, again, everything is driven by when I get data. So I'm saying 11/1. So our target, subject to what's going on, is the beginning of December to have a draft, beginning to mid. And that would gives everyone enough time to look at it and allow us to hit the December 31 deadline. But everything backs up if the timing is off. So it's critical. And again, actuaries are an issue in a lot of our clients, as far as if we don't have that report, it's hours and hours worth of work because of the 35 pages of footnotes and all the calculations and what we have to do to audit it. So even getting it November 1, that's just enough time to do it and make sure things are done. So actuaries have the same problem as accountants, is they have the work compression and everybody wants their reports, but that's a critical driver to meeting the deadline.
Any questions? Lori?
Yeah, thank you. Joe, I was reminded from reading the minutes of our conversation at the last meeting. So the actuarial information, I understood that there was a delay in the town providing the actuary what they needed to do their work, and that's what backed up the process, if you will. And I know that we had turnover in the HR department. We weren't fully staffed up at the time. So, and I'm not sure if this is a question for Caitlin or not, but who is managing that process to make sure that the HR department understands what they need to get to the actuary so that these deadlines can be met? So in other words, if they need to issue their report by November 1st, when do they need to get their information from the town? And do we have a commitment from the town, whoever is responsible, to get that done timely?
I can answer kind of what happened. Normally, the request comes directly from the actuary to the finance department and to HR at the same time. So the finance department clearly has some financial obligations, and HR has more of the data, the demographics, the census type of information that they need to provide. So that request goes out to both departments within the same email. Last year, there was turnover in that one position, so I think that was part of it took a little bit longer, and I believe that person in the position now has cleaned up a lot of the data. So I'm assuming between that data being already clean and her just having to kind of look at the 1 year as opposed to the whole cumulative population, and the fact that we had new actuaries last year, I think the two of them kind of compounded to kind of delay that request a little bit. But this year, as in all years, the request does come from both. It goes directly to both the finance and the HR department, right from it'll be Milliman this year.
Okay, that's helpful. So is everyone aware of the dates at this point? Has Milliman, because I assume that whatever Milliman's going to request is similar to what's been requested in the past. So does everybody understand the timing on both the HR and the finance department side? And are we, committed to do that? Have we discussed it with the actuary at this point?
I can reach out to Milliman. I know the person that we use is extremely efficient. And I believe, Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you deal with Milliman a lot as well directly. So I'm kind of assuming HR knows, but I can reach out to them as well.
Okay, yeah, that would be helpful. And maybe you can update us at our next meeting. I just, to me, it seems like it should be a relatively straightforward process. I'm guessing that they need the same type of information every year. And even though, our HR folks have now been in place for a little while, I just think it's really important that they understand exactly what they have to do, that they have the dates, and that we take advantage of any, I don't know if there's any downtime in the summer or any, slow periods where people can catch up on this stuff. But, I just want to make sure that, we meet our end of the bargain in terms of, getting them what they need. And Joe, I guess the same question, and Caitlin, I don't know if you're involved on this side, but as it relates to the new accounting standard on software, is there any reason that we can't start pulling that information together over the summer from the Board of Ed side?
No, any contracts or any software subscription services, somebody's going to need to evaluate the contracts. Again, after less than 1 year, then it doesn't fall under the standard. But anything, if it's a 3-year contract and that type of thing. So no, they should be able to pull that. And obviously IT departments could be helpful with that because they probably know what software is running. So that's a good starting place. Or maybe on the education side, there's somebody that manages that. But I think those two people are, the IT departments are a good resource to kind of bulk what's actually on the system. What are we using? What do we have agreements for? But I just want to go back. One of the other variables on the actuary stuff is education has to provide their own data. So education needs to provide the same information same time because they're providing that independently of your HR. So just to be aware that they have to meet the timeline also because it's all one report. So I just wanted to that because that's a challenge in a lot of our clients is the town, all the information, I'm not saying it happened in Fairfield, but I'm just saying a lot of our clients, the town provided the information, the education did not, and because it's one report, it doesn't move because they don't have the complete information. So I just want you to be aware that both sides have to be on the same timeline.
Hey, Joe, is Jared your contact person to get all this information, or do you have direct conversations with someone on the Board of Ed side as well as the town side? I mean, how does that normally work for you?
When it comes to this particular item, I just wait for the report. I don't have any involvement in that process. It's something that's been around for a long time, and the actuaries will tell you they need 6 weeks from when they get everything they need to do what they need to do. So if you're looking at how that backs up, that's normally the average time that they need to be able to produce the reports that we need for the audit.
All right, so the bottom line is you need the actuary reports by November 1st. That's what you need to be done, so you can be.
Yeah, I mean, if we're a week off, is it a big deal? No, but I'm just picking a target. The target, that's the best target, for everybody who wants to be done by 12/31.
Okay, can I just follow up on the software? Are you going to have a meeting, or how is the what's the communication? It sounds like it's mostly on the Board of Ed where you need to get that data. When is that going to be communicated to them, and is it going to be clear to them what they have to do? I mean, I guess the way I think about this is I really feel better if I heard that there was an owner for this. I mean, I know you're giving a date when you need things by, but it sounds like it wasn't really actively managed in the past. I'm not, or at least last year, and I'm not putting that on you, Joe, but we know we had a problem with this, so I just think we need to do something different this year to make sure that this stuff actually gets done. And on the software piece in particular, to me it's important that that there's good communication to the schools, that they know, to Courtney or whoever, that she knows exactly what she's got to do and get to you, so that you're getting it on time and you're getting all the information you need. So, can you just address that? Are you going to just, send them a list of data, or do you plan to have a meeting to go through what's required, et cetera?
It's a combination. We always talk about it when I have planning meetings. I'm not sure what happened last year, but that's always discussed. Leases is, when we talk leases, this is effective next year. So we're talking about that when we do planning, which is in whatever, June or July. And then we had the lease schedule, the tool that we developed. But again, and they're on the list, and as well as the town side, on July 11th, we're doing a webinar, me and somebody else from the firm, on what needs to be done. So again, that would be another critical thing, is that they make time for a 1-hour webinar to hear about what it's about and what they need to pay attention to. We're also, by then, we'll have developed our checklist, kind of like we did for leases, and we'll be able to get that out on the most common types of things that they have to do. So I'm thinking the Board of Ed has a lot. I mean, the town definitely has some also. So that's all going to be by July 11th. I will have communicated 3 times about what needs to be done.
Okay, thank you. Maybe you could keep us in the loop. I know on the Board of Ed side, it would be, I would find it helpful at least to understand where we are with them and if they're on track. It just kind of boggles my mind that we continue to deal with this every year, even though it's, in the lease standard, I understand that's new. The pension issue on the Board of Ed side is not new. And I feel like we need to get on top of that. So if we can do something to help, we'd like to do that. But maybe we can do that if you just sort of keep us in the loop on either communications or key dates, so that we can follow up on our own. That would be helpful.
Okay. They just have to confirm when they've provided the actuary the data, because that'll start the clock as far as when we would expect the report. So they can confirm to finance or confirm to you as far as when they do that, because I'm not in that loop as far as did they provide it or not provide it, and when they provided it. So that's the key driver.
Yeah, that's the key driver. So the 2 issues. So that was the one big issue, and the other one was the the software issue, and that's an issue of making sure that the right people are attending the training. They know what they've got to do. They're clear on the information that's got to be gathered, and that you get that as quickly as possible.
Right. And then the one other thing that's on my list from last year is we will be sending a confirm out in June or in July for the environmental liability. So that was the third thing that kind of was delayed, but we're going to request that data as part of our normal confirmation process, which will be sometime in July.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mayor, you have any questions?
I think I'm good. I guess I just had a quick question actually for Caitlin, and that is to remind us when she closes the books and gives the town's trial balances over to Joe.
Okay, normally we close accounts payable the 2nd Friday in August. So really, until then, everything is still changing as we're still receiving invoices for goods and services that were received prior to June 30. So that's really when we kind of, and inevitably, unfortunately, there's normally a few invoices that trickle in after that. But that's really our drop dead that we've already communicated to the departments that that's the last date that we will be paying fiscal 23 invoices. So until that time, nothing is done in terms of expenses. And normally the revenue is pretty set by then, but it's really just the expenses going out.
Okay.
We do provide Joe, just to let you know, like a prelim trial balance so he could start his testing. So I actually dump the ledger, a detailed ledger on the expense side and revenue side to him, and they do start their testing prior to that, obviously. And any other information that we can give him, our investments and stuff are pretty much done at that point. And then we kind of say, put our line in the sand at that August date, and then everything pretty much is final at that point.
Okay. So like another week, by like the third Friday, you give them the trial balances, like, but or right away, like.
Yeah. We basically, I mean, like I said, we give them prelim, and he starts his testing prior to that, and then we're pretty much set. We're still working on some of the bigger issues like the pension, the OPEB, the fixed assets, those types of things obviously come in a lot later than that. But in terms of the expenses running through the general fund and other funds, we're pretty much set at that point. We do, at that point, just so you know, kind of wait for retainage and stuff. That takes a little bit longer, but we're pretty much set at that point.
Okay.
You all set, Mary?
I'm
Go ahead.
I'm done, John.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, Lori has one more question. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one more question on the audit for Joe. Joe, can you just, I'm sure we've discussed this in previous years, but can you just go through what you consider to be the risk areas on the audit and highlight if any of those have changed from previous years?
You know, I think the major, risk is, we do a risk assessment at the beginning, so it's going to depend. I mean, the environmental liability is a higher risk, and we consider pension and OPEB higher risk as far as because of it's a big estimate, and because of the amount of disclosures that are required. And then federal and state single audit, again, you know, I don't think about it as a risk, but it's just treated as a risk as far as the compliance testing and what needs to get done. So ARPA's your biggest program, so that's something that is our radar as far as testing that. So it's a risk area, but to us, it's kind of more routine outside the specific programs that we're testing.
Okay, and I guess related to that, it's been, I think, about 3 years since you delivered the DPW audit report to us, and you know, you had a number of findings as a result of that audit around bidding procedures and you know, approvals and documentation that was and wasn't available for the transactions you tested. When you do your transactional testing, are you focused on those areas that were identified in the audit? And can you just talk to us a little bit about the transactional testing you do and how those items may be covered?
Yeah, because the audit is way broader than that, it's not a focus. So when we do general fund transaction, we're hitting all departments. We're not focused on any one department, just because that biases the audit. So
I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that you're focused on DPW. I mean the types of findings that you had. You know, your DPW audit was focused on that department, but the findings that you had related to purchasing and, you know, areas that are broader in terms of town policies and procedures. So as you do your transactional testing, and I realize you have a higher level of materiality and you're going across all departments, are you, given the scope of your findings in the past, are you looking at those same types of items? For example, if you do transactional testing on something related to a construction project or a capital expense or a large purchase, are you looking for things like appropriate bidding procedures or not?
So yeah, bidding is a standard part of the testing that we do. Not all firms test bidding, but I've always tested it because there is a risk there. So that's if something meets the threshold, then we are verifying that it was properly bid. So, but whether it be general fund or capital funds, and then even in the federal and state testing, those programs have the same requirements. Conceptually, you're following your policy, or federal, there's some higher, but we look at the lower that you're following your policy. So all that is kind of, I'm going to call, for me, that's standard, no matter what client it is, problem or not a problem, because it is a risk.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, maybe, when we get our next update from you, it would be helpful to just understand the results of your test work in those areas. I know we don't typically get into that level of detail, but it just seems like, just given the magnitude of those findings last time, we're about to hopefully approve a new purchasing policy soon. It would be helpful to just understand what you're seeing when you're doing that work. So, maybe, Mr. Mottola, if we can, for our next meeting, just get an update. I assume, Joe, that's the type of work that you do earlier in the process, the transactional testing. So, to the extent that's done, or even if it's in process, it would be helpful to just understand what you're seeing and if any concerns are coming to light as a result of that work.
Okay, yeah, we'll start that end of the month through the summer is when that work is traditionally done, both town side, board side, and the federal and state, as much as we can test, if we know what programs that we have to test.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think, Joe, you have to send me just a corrected letter. It's because you had June 30th, 2022 in the second paragraph, so when you get a chance, email that.
Yeah, it's already sent. I was just waiting to see if there was any other questions, but I'll send it as soon as we're done here. I'll email you the one that says 23.
Thanks, Joe. Anybody else? Okay, I think you're all done, Joe. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, sure. We'll see you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is item number 4, to hear an update on recent internal audits. Connie Saxel's here from the Town Finance Department, and we received 2 audit reports. So Connie, come on up, and why don't you give us a presentation on them?
Thank you, John. So from January 1st to present, there were 2 internal audits that were finalized. The first that I'll talk about is the audit entitled VPS E-Check Rejects, Chargebacks, and Refunds. Now, VPS stands for Value Payment Systems and is the company who processes the customer credit card transactions originating from Municity, our online permitting software. The purpose of this audit was to ensure that departments who collect revenue from online permitting are properly complying with prescribed town policies and procedures surrounding e-check rejects, chargebacks, and refunds. And just to give you a background, a chargeback is a credit card charge that is disputed by the customer. An e-check reject is an electronic check that is declined by the bank because something went wrong during the customer payment process. In these instances, no revenue has been received by the town from these customer transactions because they have been declined. The department is required to contact the customer and obtain a replacement check for the required amount plus a $20 administrative processing fee. All departments tested were found to be in compliance with town policy. A refund is a reversal of a customer credit card transaction whereby the original charge is credited back to the customer's account. These are done in office. On one occasion, a department was found to be in non-compliance with town policy, even though the refund was for a bona fide proper reason. I explained the policy to department staff and the department head, which requires documentation including the date of the refund, the reason for the refund, the clerk's signature, the permit number that was voided, and the department head sign-off for the refund. I redistributed the copy of the policy to them. They understood and agreed to follow the town policy. I also redistributed online permitting policies and procedures a second time to all departments who use online permitting software for a refresher. The departments who use online permitting are building, fire marshal, conservation, plan and zoning, engineering, and sewer. I recently trained the clerk in the sewer department on how to print and reconcile daily reports and how to report revenue on daily deposit transmittals submitted to finance for entry into Munis. Does anyone have any questions about that audit report?
Anybody have questions? That one was pretty straightforward. Mary, you okay? Looks like she's okay. Okay.
I don't have a question, but just want to make sure I understand the scope of the audit. So as part of what you did, you looked to see if the departments were in compliance, but you also did ensure that all these credit card charges made their way into the bank and were properly recorded, correct?
Yes,
okay.
That is correct. I examined 6.5 months worth of daily reports. There were 229 reports in total, comprising over $1.4 million in revenue. And also, when I do my monthly bank reconciliation, I trace every single daily report that's received from the VPS to our general fund bank account to ensure that we are indeed receiving all the money.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, why don't you go on to the next one?
Okay, the next one I did was called Card Connect Credit Card Processing Fees. I reviewed a sample of Card Connect monthly statements from 7 departments who have the capability to collect credit card payments from customers to ensure that the fees charged by the company were in compliance with RFP 2018-85. The 7 departments who use Card Connect are Parks, Recreation, Fire, Health, Community and Economic Development, Town Clerk, Social Services/Senior Center, and Solid Waste and Recycling. It was noted that a $15 monthly statement fee was charged to each department every month. However, this fee was not listed on the original fee proposal schedule submitted to purchasing and ultimately awarded to Card Connect in bid number 2018-85. It was further noted that credit card processing fees charged by Card Connect to town departments had been steadily increasing at varying rates for all town departments since the contract expired in 2020. It was recommended that the purchasing department prepare and submit a new RFP for credit card processing in order to obtain better fees for this service. I discussed this with purchasing and IT, and the 2 departments are working together, and they are reviewing credit card processors, services, and fees, and a future RFP is anticipated sometime this summer. Do you have any questions on that?
Yes, I do. So this RFP went out in 2018. You looked at fees charged from 2019 through 2023. Can you just clarify whether, and then the RFP expired, but we continued to do business and pay them in the absence of that, which I don't understand at all, and I'd like to get to that too. But the discrepancies that you found, whether it be the statement fee or the the fees themselves. Were they in compliance with the bid during the duration of the bid from 2018 to 2020? So did this issue start after the bid was expired, or was it a problem while the bid was, in place?
The correct fees were charged while the bid was active as of the conclusion in 2020. There were terms in the RFP that extended the bid for an additional 3-year period, which would have terminated it in August 2023. However, the terms of the bid also stated that the Card Connect needed to notify the town of Fairfield if they were going to change the fees. I went to purchasing department. However, there has been a turnover in management there, and he was unable to confirm whether or not the town and Card Connect had agreed to extend the original bid to August of 2023, and whether or not they had discussed a change in the fee structure. So at this point in time, the fees have already been charged to the town has paid these fees. I had suggested either go back to Card Connect, try to get a refund, or once this termination date of August 2023 comes about, just try to find a new credit card company. I know Community and Economic Development, this is what prompted this audit, was they called and said, we're getting socked with these crazy fees, and and it really affects our revenue. So I went to look, and indeed I did find some unusual charges, an annual bundle fee and different types of things, a few $100. So I did discuss this with IT and purchasing, and they agreed that at the conclusion in August, they're going to look for a new credit card processor, a new credit card company. I know Community and Economic Development has already looked into a new company called Square, and I gave them all our banking information, and hopefully that'll be coming on board soon. And I told them as soon as Square is up and running, let's cancel Card Connect with your department so you don't get hit with these fees anymore, because they will continue to charge fees even if you don't use them as a service. You will still get a monthly fee.
Okay. I'm sure my colleagues here have questions, but I guess my biggest question is, and I will tell you, I find this kind of thing very troubling, because whether we can find evidence that we extended the agreement or not, or that we agreed to this or not, isn't someone responsible before we pay a bill for making sure that the bill agrees to an RFP? How could it be that we've gone for years with fees that we don't know whether we ever agreed to them or not, and we're just paying the bills? Who ultimately owns that? Is it finance? Is it each department? Who's responsible for making sure that when we cut a check to a vendor that we're paying the right amount?
Well, at the very least, the purchasing department should let each department head know what fees that they will be paying and are responsible for on each monthly statement. Unfortunately, no one ever told the departments either what their monthly fees would be, so they were not aware of what they should or should not have been charged. So,
does the department head have a responsibility to ask if they see additional fees? Who is signing off? Who's approving? I'm assuming if I'm a department head, I've got to sign off on this before I send it to finance and get a check cut. So where did this break down? Who should have caught this?
Okay, so for the monthly credit cards, what happens is an ACH. The money goes directly right into the town general fund bank account, and a fee is also hits the town general fund bank account. The department gets a monthly statement. They see the statement. They see it tells you what your revenue was, what your fee is. They put it on a deposit transmittal, and it's submitted to finance, and someone enters it as revenue into the Munis accounting system, and then someone, also known as Connie Saxel, reconciles the credit card statements to what they've reported to the general fund. And every month, there will be revenue and fees associated. However, the department head is signing off on the deposit transmittal. Unfortunately, I don't believe anyone ever went to the departments and said, you know, you're going to get a $15 monthly statement fee, there'll be an annual bundle fee, there'll be debit card fees and such. I think there needs to be maybe a better communication between the purchasing department when they establish these contracts and the departments to let them know. So there's a coordination between the two.
Okay, but we don't know if the purchasing department ever agreed to this to begin with, right? So
to the extension of when it expired in 2020
So,
to 23.
I mean, ideally, going forward, because this will happen again, who is supposed to catch this is my question. I mean, who should? It seems
Right.
like we need policy, training, guidance, something, because, you know, I remember during our last meeting we had, I think it was Greenway serves, we had another thing with,
Right.
same thing. And it just, I don't understand it. I'm not just trying to be critical. I'm saying, who is responsible for making sure that when we pay a bill, we're paying the right amount?
Right, and it's a big task because we have so many different contracts and so many RFPs and bids.
All the more reason we
Right.
need.
Ideally, there should be a person assigned who is comparing the bid awards, the RFP awards, any contract to actual invoices to make sure the two agree.
And does your recommendation in this audit solve for that?
No, I did not include that as part of my audit recommendations. However, I did say that they should at least notify the departments so they know what to expect when they see these monthly statements.
They
at a
meaning
very minimum.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if purchasing never approved this, let's just say, I mean, we don't know if they did or they didn't. I mean, I have to assume if they knew all this was happening, they might have asked questions, right? Or, you know, the bunch of new fees, somebody might have said something. So if purchasing did not, in fact, agree to it, there's got to be somebody who identifies. And if they've agreed to it, that's one thing. Then they tell everybody. But it seems like we could have a situation where we do not agree to changes in an extended bid. And there's got to be somebody who figures out that we're starting to get all these increased fees and says something. And it seems like, well, I'm glad that finally, economic development noticed, but it shouldn't take an internal audit. You understand what I'm saying? So I think this is a bigger question about our policies and procedures around how we approve payments and make sure that we're paying the right amount. I guess I would ask that we, and maybe this can be a follow-up item, look at what is the right control to have over this so that we know, that we're paying the appropriate amount on any of these these bills. Do we have the right resources, the adequate resources in our finance department to do this?
Well, the department head should know what the fee structure is, what they should be paying, how much, based on the bids, because they are involved in many of the bids and contracts. So
True, but yet no one said anything for a couple of years.
I don't believe there was a communication at that time between the contract, when the contract was awarded to the departments.
And maybe we, at one of our next audit meetings, we'll do a follow-up on this. Probably a good idea. Where I work for this different municipality, this is a problem sometimes, and you really need, this town and other towns need one person really who is in charge of looking at our contracts, RFPs, and being able to note whether there's a change after 1 year and whether if any change that happens in a contract or an RFP, if there are terms and conditions which trigger certain actions by either party. It sounds like here, if we could have gotten out of the RFP for this particular
Right,
situation.
when it concluded in
Right.
2020.
We didn't have to
right.
extend it.
Correct.
We didn't want to, so, but no
Correct.
one was, do you just, based on your experience, is that something that type of person, is that a purchasing department or not necessarily?
Right, usually if the contract is extended, it does come from the purchasing department.
So yeah, so the purchasing department, we would have expected them to be proactive and say, okay, this is coming to an end.
Right.
Is anything changing?
Right.
It's like a tickler system. You have it on your calendar that this contract we entered into a year from now it's coming up on expiring, or we're either going to get out of the contract, or there's a provision in the contract that says we can extend it under certain terms and conditions, but certain things have to happen before we do that. All that stuff should be mapped out. And do we do that sometimes? Do you know, Connie?
I believe they do. I believe they do. But I can't say for certain.
Okay, yeah, we should follow up on this
Yeah,
one too.
well, thank you. Mary, do you have anything you wanted to add or questions? You're on mute now, Mary. I don't know if you have anything.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't really have any questions right now.
All right. Well, we'll follow up in one of our next meetings. When's our next? We may have a special meeting because we want to talk about the credit card, the different credit card issue. And then the next audit meeting, is that not until December, or do we have one in October?
Should be September, I think.
September, okay. So maybe, Connie, we'll reach out to you in September. Maybe at that meeting, we need Jared here too.
Or, yeah, or
Or
maybe if we have a special meeting, we can, because I think, if we talk about the credit card issue, it's just more of the same. Who is reviewing payments for compliance, whether they be on a credit card, whether they be associated with a bid, et cetera. It just seems like a very, loose and decentralized process. I don't know if that's a fair statement, but there's enough, things there that, seems like it would be appropriate to devote some resources to it. Can I ask Connie a separate question before she goes? During our last meeting, I think you were going to follow up on a couple of the issues at the solid waste or at the transfer station, et cetera. Is that still in process, or do you have anything to report there?
That is still on the list for follow-up, yes. I do have that on the back burner, but it is going to happen, a follow-up, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Connie, for coming.
Well, I still have a few other things.
Oh, you do? I thought we only had two.
No,
All right.
no, well,
Sorry.
well, I just
Go
figured
ahead.
I'd let you know about what else is going on in finance.
Go ahead. I
On a
apologize.
happier note, other positive things to note. Other financial and accounting functions. I worked with town departments and FEMA to obtain reimbursement to the town for past disasters. The town was recently awarded $694,239, two of which were open projects that were pending for years with FEMA relating to Storm Sandy. Those two projects comprised $319,386.84 of the total award. So that's money back to the town, and I was happy with that.
When did we get that money?
Between October and present.
Okay,
The
so
Storm Sandy money we got March 27th and June 3rd.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand whether that was already included in the quarterly results that we looked at. Because was that a surprise or was that anticipated?
Well, I've been working with FEMA, and this all transpired with COVID. When I submitted requests for COVID reimbursements with FEMA, and then we had certain natural disasters. We had Hurricane Isaias, Hurricane Ida, and I saw that there were a few Storm Sandy projects that were pending. And I said, what can I do to get this money back? And they requested some invoices, a few permits, letters, and from certain departments, and I gathered all that information. I gave it to them and got the reimbursement, so I was happy with that. Only, Storm Sandy was only in 2012, but, hey.
Were you able to get the Penfield money back too?
No, I didn't even go there. I'm sure they wouldn't even talk to me.
All right.
So I also sent a refresher email to department heads in January regarding important points to remember pertaining to the municipal credit card policy and procedures, along with an updated policy and required forms for documenting credit card expenditures. There are 65 town card holders at that time there were. I believe there still are. I sent a refresher email to department heads regarding deposit transmittals, policies, and procedures in May of 2023, along with the updated policy and required forms. I implemented a new procedure in finance for the scanning of deposit transmittals and associated backup documentation into Munis. This allows for greater ease of lookup of deposit documentation submitted to finance by departments. I requested reimbursement from the state of Connecticut for unclaimed funds, also known as the Big List, and received a total of approximately $36,000 back to the town. I submitted the first quarter of calendar 23 ARPA report to the U.S. Treasury. I worked with town and finance for the first quarter of calendar 23 to ensure that departments are following up on bounced checks and properly receiving replacement checks, plus the $20 administrative processing fee. Prepared the quarterly cash flow reports for OPEB and pension. Worked with the state auditor and Board of Ed manager of safety, security, and construction on Fairfield Woods Middle School and Fairfield Ludlow High School construction audits. And last but not least, Lori's favorite, I did the general fund bank rec, the monthly bank recs and the Recreation Department bank recs. I have 2 audits that are in draft review with the CFO. It's a petty cash audit and a GovDeals online auction of surplus revenue audit. So it's been busy the last several months.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I would just thank you for everything you're doing.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I appreciate all that you do as well. Thank you.
You okay, Mary?
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item is a motion to adjourn. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about anything before we do that. Everybody's good? Hey, Mary and Lori, we're going to try to have a special meeting of the audit committee in the next, 2 to 3 weeks. I'll try to give you dates to see if it's okay. We want to talk about, follow up with what Connie just said, and also I'm going to have Kathy Simpson from HR in here to give us an update on the credit card situation. So we were going to try to get her to tonight's meeting, but she's out in California. Her daughter is going to medical school out there, and so she was helping her daughter move, so she couldn't be here tonight. So just a heads up. So we'll talk about dates in the next couple of weeks, okay? All right.
Great.
And nothing else, so entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Seconded
Second.
by Mary Leclerc. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone.